All right, it's Joey Atlas here. You are watching from the Atlas Candid Cam. What we're about to do is record the Fitness Whisperer podcast, episode number 4. I've got my director of smooth operations, Nikki, on the other line. She runs the studio for me. She is an ace. And we've got this thing we talk about at the studio here and there, something I've mentioned in some of our private seminars called the Matrix. So I'm not going to say anything more about it. You're going to hear all about it now in this podcast interview. And what we're doing is we're recording the audio so that even though this is an actual audio podcast, we are going to sync it up with the video version you're watching now. And you should be able to hear Nikki ask the questions that I'm going to be answering. So can you hear me, Nikki? All right, I'm going to hit start recording, and then we're going to get right into it with the intro, okay? Hello, this is Joey Atlas with the Fitness Whisperer podcast, episode number 4. And today we are turning the tables. I have on the other line my director of smooth operations, Nikki Doherty, from the Sculpted Fit studio here in St. John's in Mandarin, Florida. And she's going to be asking me the questions today about a topic that it's a hidden problem in fitness and health and wellness, but it's one of the things that we work on in the studio with our women, and it's something that most people just don't realize it's there, and we call it the matrix of negativity, to be exact. So Nikki's going to ask the questions, and I'm going to give the answers, and we're going to see where this conversation goes. And I have a feeling this is going to be continued again later on. So, Nikki, thanks for doing this. Much appreciated, and it's awesome to have you here.
No problem. Thank you for having me on, Joey.
You got it. All right. You got those questions lined up for me?
Yeah, I do. So, we've mentioned this matrix of negativity in a few of our private studio seminars. And every time you mention it, I can see the women are listening in, and they have very close attention. They want to learn more. So I thought it'd be a good idea and be helpful if you can record a few Q&As to take our listeners and our ladies in the studio deeper into the concept of the matrix of negativity.
Nice.
And how, for you, becoming aware of it is one of the keys to health and fitness success. So That's kind of why I wanted to come on, ask you some questions so we can kind of dive into this topic a little bit more.
Awesome. All right, let's go.
Awesome. All right. So first question is, when did you first recognize the existence of this matrix?
All right. So that's really important. It's a simple question, but it's important because I had the privilege of becoming aware of this matrix when I was really young. I didn't know what it is, but the awareness started when I was a kid because my dad he still does, but when I was young, he was into fitness. So he was like part of that 1% of the population that worked out, exercised on a regular basis. Whereas just about everybody else in the 70s did not work out, exercise, and follow a path of fitness. So being aware of this, and he would work out around the house a lot. He had all the body weight stuff, the chin-up bar in the doorway, the push-up stands, old school dumbbells and stuff. He would eat better than most people, and that was recognizable. So in being able to have that firsthand perspective and seeing him, the things he did, and how other people lived, and the difference between them, it raised my awareness that him versus most other people lived in these different kinds of mindsets. They lived in a different matrix. I didn't call it the matrix back then. I just realized that they had their own mindset, their own zone in which they operated. And so that's when I first became aware of this zone that people operate in. Does that make sense for early days?
Yeah, makes sense for sure. So there was a differing views and kind of theories about how you should live your life.
Yeah, so you could see that most people just kind of defaulted to what everybody else was doing. Okay, and their mindsets fed into keeping each other doing the same things, which as we can see still today, it's 2017. I think it's 85% of the population still does not follow a regular regimen of exercise, proper nutrition, and good daily habits. So back then, it was clear that most people operated in this existence of no regular physical activity, and really not paying any much attention to their nutrition. And even as far back as the 70s, there was so much fast food being created, and as kids, I mean, I remember all the bad stuff that used to be available. I mean, I ate a lot of it as a kid. All the candies, the donuts, the baked goods, all the sugar cereals that were coming out in the 70s. It was really, this is part of that matrix of negativity that we'll talk more about as we go forward. But it started becoming evident on the physical and the habitual side that adults had different ways of living. The majority lived kind of like by default. They just did what everybody else did. And then there was a really small percentage that felt like they should be taking care of themselves through physical activity, eating better than most people, probably not drinking as much, etc. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. And it's cool that you had that influence from your dad early on.
Oh, it was huge.
So huge. How did your understanding develop further as you matured into your adulthood?
Yeah, so awesome. Great question. As I matured and picked up on the habits myself, it became clear that most people you interacted with found it kind of inspiring or motivating or impressive that I, like many other people who followed the path, were able to stay on a regular routine consistently for really long periods of time, much unlike the norm, which the norm is anybody who decides they're going to try something, they're either trying it for a few weeks or they might even make it a few months. And before they know it, they've quote unquote fallen off the wagon, which is very typical in January. A lot of people start their New Year's resolutions. Number one resolution is weight loss and fitness. And by the time February, March rolls around, 90% of those people are toast. They're off the resolution and back at square one again. So for me, it was something that developed over time. I did start becoming more aware of it from a psychological perspective in my teens, early 20s, when I realized that most people simply were unable to make the deep commitment that was a lifetime commitment. And I didn't figure out why back then, but the evidence of people not being able to stick to it as a lifestyle long term was becoming more evident. So early, back in my childhood, it was simply a matter of seeing the groups who didn't do anything versus that small percentage who did do something on a consistent basis. Then as I got older and developed my own lifestyle, my own path, what I became cognizant of was that even people who did try to start something with good intentions, most were unable to stick with it. And so as time progressed and I made exercise physiology my college major and turning it into a profession after that, starting to deal with people on a one-on-one basis and in group fitness settings and personal training, what you realized was that this psychological aspect of being able to stick with what they're originally committing to was actually one of the hardest parts of somebody getting fit, healthy, and in shape. It wasn't necessarily that things weren't working for them all the time. It was more so that psychologically they would let themselves off the hook and become uncommitted as opposed to staying committed to what they originally said their goals were.
Mm-hmm.
So they would allow these various things in life to get in the way, to pull them down, to take them off track. So as I matured, got into my 30s and 40s, it started to become more clear that there's something else deeper in all this that is taking people off the path. I mean, why would they start with good intentions in the first place, put all the time, energy, and effort into getting going, and then give up, a few weeks or a few months or even, maybe a year later, give up only to have to start over again? When you start looking at these things and listening to people's reasons, if they're willing to elaborate, what you start hearing is that it's these other life forces that they're battling that are part of what is taking them off the path. And so I've come to define this as the matrix of negativity, because when we talk about a matrix, here's what a matrix is. This is where the name comes from when I apply it to this. A matrix is a set of conditions that provides a framework in which something develops. Okay, so let's think about that in simple terms. It's a set of conditions that provides a framework in which something develops. So for a person, their set of conditions can be their surroundings in life. It could be the main one, of course, is the people that surround them, that creates their conditions. That's the primary. Then you have all of the other physical, environmental conditions, like the type of house they live in, the type of neighborhood they live in, the climate they live in, the workplace they work in. All of that provides the framework that helps that person develop. And it's not always positive, of course, but that framework is what shapes that person. Okay, and most people operate on autopilot. They're not really conscious of what they're surrounded by on a day-to-day, minute-to-minute basis. And so because of that, they're guided by these hidden forces of this framework that makes up the matrix that they exist in. And it's really hard for people to recognize that. And if they don't recognize it, then they can't break out of that matrix. So what you have is people living amongst, let's just say, a group of friends and family. And the majority, if not all of those friends and family members, live a typical lifestyle. They eat poorly, they overeat, they maybe drink like the average person does. And like the 85 some odd percent of the population, they don't exercise. They don't follow a fitness routine to keep themselves healthy and strong and fit. So in that kind of framework, it's very likely that that individual is also going to fall into the same habits of lifestyle and mindset. Is that making sense so far?
Perfect sense. Perfect sense.
Okay, I don't want to go too deep into this unless you have some more questions that build on this.
Yeah, so on that same vein, it sounds like the matrix is kind of a series of lifestyle and day-to-day habits that kind of compound on each other. Is that right?
It is. It's like the matrix is what we exist in. Mm-hmm. Okay, so for people like you, like myself, for other coaches, for the other ladies in our studio who have made the commitment as clients, for people like us, the professionals, we made a decision long ago that we are going to exist in our own matrix, regardless of where we are and regardless of who we're surrounded by. Okay, we wouldn't let people take us off our path. What we would do, though, is live ours in our framework. And on the same note, by nature, the longer we stay on that path, the more we find we attract similar people into our matrix, therefore creating an environment that makes it more conducive and easier to keep living that lifestyle. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. All right, so I've got another question for you then.
Mm-hmm.
In your current day-to-day activities, where is the matrix most obvious in your own life? And where do you see the matrix coming into play as you observe others?
Okay, that's an awesome question. A lot of potential answers here. for me, um, don't get me wrong. I mean, you know as well as I do, we've known each other a long time. I've had my ups and downs in life, and I have allowed myself to fall off the good matrix and find myself in a negative matrix. The key is to be able to be aware of it and climb out of it. So, I don't want anybody thinking who's listening to this that I've always been perfect and I've always stayed out of the matrix of negativity. Life is long, life is challenging, life can be hard sometimes, but the key is to be aware of what type of matrix you're in and what you need to do to make sure that you either get back to the positive matrix and stay out of the negative one. So in my life, I've seen examples when I used to do a lot of one-on-one work with personal training clients, and we'd have the conversations that would shed the light on the aspects of their lives and the people in their lives and or in their workplace that would hold the answers to what elements of the matrix of negativity that surround these people that prevent them from being able to take the right steps and stick with them. So let me give you an example. And this one is really common. It's one of the toughest ones. Let's say you have a husband and wife who meet when they're relatively young, call them high school sweethearts, or they met in college. And in those early years, maybe neither of them were into, quote unquote, the fitness thing and taking care of themselves. They were younger, maybe they were able to maintain weight just because of their youth, and they could eat and drink anything they want, and they never gained weight. So they get married, they love each other, yada, yada, and they get into their 30s, maybe 40s, having a few kids, and life starts really taking over. They're busy. But what happens is middle age happens, and metabolism slows down because they're not taking care of themselves. They're not exercising. They're not doing the things to maintain proper health and wellness. And they start getting out of shape, and they start getting bad annual physical exam reports, blood pressure getting bad, cholesterol being out of whack, possible heart issues coming up, and other things maybe popping up every now and again that are starting to scare them. And in a couple scenario like this, what I've seen happen is, and sometimes it's just pure vanity. The woman will, have a few kids and think, oh my Lord, where has my body gone? I am not the same person anymore. I'm so depressed. I feel like garbage. I feel like my husband doesn't even want to look at me anymore. Sometimes that'll trigger her deciding, okay, it's time to take action. She doesn't call it the matrix. Some of them don't even see it that way. They're unaware, but they're in this matrix that they're looking to break out of now. Okay, and so sometimes it's vanity, sometimes it is pure health and longevity, and sometimes it's both. So she will start taking steps to take care of herself. She will find a fitness program, or she'll try a few and see which ones, or one that she likes or doesn't like. And she'll look for something that she can start doing on a regular basis. She will also start paying more attention to her daily nutrition, what she's eating, how much she's drinking, if she's drinking. Does it need to be cut out totally? Can she cut down? But there's a problem here, because hubby has not gotten with the program. He may be totally unaware that she's doing anything, or if he starts to recognize it, or if she has shared with him that she's going to start taking care of herself because she wants to be around for the kids and she wants to be around for him, and she doesn't want to get old fast like she has been, it may very well be that he's not looking to do the same. He's not looking to make a shift. He might not want to make that big commitment to taking care of himself. So what do we have? We have this paradox of the matrix. He is looking to stay in the old matrix of negativity, matrix of bad health, the one that does not allow you to reach your goals. So what happens is she has woken up.
she's deciding to break out of that matrix and start striving toward health, wellness, positivity, and fixing the health issues that are starting to creep up and appear, and take care of her body from a vanity perspective as well. So it's a big challenge. What is she to do? Like, sometimes this actually, a few scenarios can come of this. He might say, after a few weeks, he might see the light and say, you know what, honey, you're right. We do need to take care of ourselves, both of us. You need to do it for yourself. I need to do it for me. We need to do it for each other, and we need to do it for our kids. And wisdom hits him, and he decides to start breaking out of the matrix of negativity and joining her in that matrix of positivity, creating their lifestyle, their daily habits, the things that are important to them, which shape their mindset. Another scenario is that he is not only not for it, but he also is going to consciously try to derail her efforts because he may be insecure that she is now going to be taking care of herself while he is not. And he may start accusing her of, you're not the same woman I used to know. All of a sudden you want to be a health nut, you want to be a fitness freak, or, there could be any number of names he might be using. But he's attacking her because of his insecurities, that he doesn't want to take care of himself, which is his own choice. But he's insecure for whatever reasons that she is now deciding to take care of herself. And so we have discord. Sometimes that discord is enough for her to throw in the towel and fall back into that matrix of negativity because she doesn't want to leave him behind, and she doesn't want to be continually subjected to his ridicule and his attacks. Sometimes she's strong enough to say, hey, listen, I understand you may not want to do this either. You don't see the light. Maybe you will eventually. I would like you to join me because this is important for us, for our health, for our family, for the kids, for our longevity. And I love you, and I want you to join me in this so that we can do it together. And sometimes that talk works, but sometimes it doesn't, because he doesn't want her to be the person who saved them. He doesn't want wifey to be the smarter one who made this decision for them. Or there could be other reasons that are just part of his psychology. And sometimes this does lead to the couple breaking up. She has a revelation at middle age that they can't live the way they used to. They need to take care of themselves, and she is all for it and wants to do it. And seriously, sometimes it is the kids that a mom wants to live for and take care of herself. And for the husband, if he's with the program as well, of course. But sometimes it's not, he doesn't want to go there. It's just not, he doesn't want to give up his beer drinking. He doesn't want to give up his big steaks and potatoes. He doesn't want to give up the other eating habits. And he doesn't want to hit the gym for an hour a day. He just doesn't want to do it. And so occasionally it can cause divorce or breakup, or whatever the relationship scenario is. It can cause people to break apart. It's unfortunate, but it does happen. For couples who are not married, it's a good thing because they're each going in the direction that's most important to them, and each will find someone who is of a better matched matrix, I guess we can say, right? Because they have their priorities set and they have a clearer vision of who might be a good match for them. So it could play out in many different ways, but the key is, no matter if it's a relationship type scenario or a family type scenario or a circle of friends scenario, how many times do we meet women who come into the studio on their own and they talk about the friendships they're surrounded by and how these 4 other women do not want to do anything that involves regular physical activity and exercise to take care of themselves. Right? There might be one in a group of 4 or 5 or 6 who decide, you know what? I'm done getting old fast. I am worried about my health, and I'm going to do something about it now. So you have a woman like that who decides that she's breaking out of this friendship matrix of negativity. And these people could be very, very sweet people, very loving people, very good-hearted people. However, the matrix they live in is one of self-destruction, self-neglect, and fast aging. And like we've seen, some women are ready to step out of that, and they can read, they see the news reports, they're all getting smarter. But every now and again, one will step up and say, you know what, I'm done reading, I'm done hearing all this, I'm done with my doctor telling me every year you have to do something, otherwise it's just going to get worse and worse. I'm ready to do something. So they step out of that matrix for themselves. They look to start creating a matrix that is beneficial and positive, even if they are solo and none of their friends want to come along. What we've seen, of course, is these women connecting with other like-minded women in the studio, creating that new matrix. They've implanted themselves into a new matrix of positivity that helps feed into this collective mindset of, hey, yeah, we're all here to take care of ourselves and we're going to support each other. They don't use the same words, but what they're doing is they're creating that new set of conditions that provides the framework for which they can now continue to grow and evolve and develop in this new matrix of positivity. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And a lot of what we've seen in the studio as well, to kind of add to that, is some people, when they're so into their own matrix of negativity, they don't trust that whatever someone new is trying out something new, they don't trust it'll last.
Right.
So there can be judgment or, oh, that's not going to work. And it takes a while. So if you're one of those friends that steps out and says, no, this is for me, you need to try it, you'll find yourself getting into a right group that has that positive matrix point of view. But you also might find that some of those people that were in the negative mindset and against you at first, whether it may be a few months, maybe a few years, they'll see, oh, wow, she really has changed. Oh, this is the real deal. And then they'll join you into that positive matrix. So sometimes people just need to see it work and see that it's valid and that exists and it's true over time.
Yes. So very, very important points. Okay, so let's go a little deeper on those. There is a level of skepticism, and just because SculptaFit studios are for women only right now, this applies to male and female. You have this level of skepticism in people and insecurity where maybe they've heard stories, or maybe they've even tried certain things and have gotten hurt, or tried long enough where they expected results and put in enough effort and didn't get results. The more people do that over time, the more skeptical they become, and rightfully so. I mean, I'll be the first to denounce a bunch of fitness approaches out there that are not for the average person. That can feed into the matrix of negativity and strengthen it. A person can say, yeah, I tried that boot camp, or I tried, the trainer thing with doing the HIIT sessions, and my back was killing me, and the doctor said my shoulder needs a rest, and it just felt like my body was getting beat down. Well, it's understandable that they would quit, and rightfully so. Like, we don't want to do things that hurt us and don't feel good and we don't look forward to. So people coming into something with a certain level of skepticism and insecurity, completely understandable. And that alone can keep them from breaking out of that matrix of negativity, is because they're scared. They've tried it, maybe they tried already, or they've heard friends who've had bad experiences. So yes, great point. We do see that often in the studio, definitely when we were first opening. But just like you mentioned, when you have your first movers who read the material closely and are open enough to trusting what we're sharing with them, enough to take a chance on themselves, really, that this could be the thing, well, they're adventurous enough to take that step, because at the end of the day, they still want something that's going to work for them. They're not willing to give up. They're just being much more discerning in the process. What happens is, as you are seeing through the studio, when these women start getting good results and their spirit changes, and even the smile and the energy and their look changes in addition to their physical self, they start talking about their energy levels and their medical profiles, and all their clothes are fitting better. They got to get rid of the old clothes. Well, those ladies and people around them, they can't help but notice. It's obvious. And so what happens is, some of those real skeptical ladies or men, or even the hubbies in the matrix of negativity, they can't help but notice because the proof is right there, right in front of them. So they either wake up to that and decide, okay, I'm coming with you to this place because you're getting younger in front of my eyes and I don't want to be left behind. And you've proven that it's safe, it's fun, it's effective, and you're still going. That says a lot. For the husbands or boyfriends, sometimes it's enough for them to say, you know what, she's loving this and it's working. It seems fun. And her spirit's renewed. She's a new woman. I love it. So that's motivating me to take care of myself too. I'm going to go do something. So you're very correct in that that first layer of skepticism and really being on guard for what she might try next is really strong. And it takes something really good to break through that and to let her know that, yeah, there is something out there for you. And we're not the answer for everybody, of course. We still have women who come to us who really need therapy before they even come to us. They're so far out of shape. They've let themselves go so much. You've dealt with a lot of these in the initial consults where you realize they're so out of shape that they actually need basic physical therapy first to get them to a baseline of decent living where they can then consider a structured fitness and exercise program, right? So for those people, at least they're looking to step out of that matrix, and maybe they're hurting so bad that they realize, oh, Lord, I need to do something. Otherwise, I may not be around much longer. Sometimes it's when a condition gets so bad that a person is so scared that they realize, I've got to do something because I have nothing to lose. If my health keeps deteriorating the way it is, I need to do something. So sometimes it's that level of fear and alarm that is the push that makes them want to take the steps. And as you know, we've seen some hardcore ladies come through the studio who are either getting tired of the hardcore approach, even though they're lifers and they've been doing this stuff all their life. They realize in their 40s that this stuff may not be the best for me at this stage of my life, but they're not willing to throw in the towel. They're looking to do something smarter. Some of them might feel it's too gentle, of course, which is fine because relatively speaking, we are. We're not the rah-rah, hard-hitting, push, more kind of place. And so some of those ladies may still want that kind of approach. And, there's plenty of places that do that where they can get it. But, I give them credit. At least they're living in a matrix that is still giving them what they want physically. They're not just sitting on a couch. They're not just gaining weight every year. They're not just eating to satisfy their happiness. They're doing what they want to do, and they're getting their fitness in their own special way. And that's what really counts. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. All right. So the last thing I have is, what advice would you give for someone who believes they're stuck in the matrix of negativity and wants to rise above it so they can take control of their health, fitness, longevity, happiness? What are some of your tips on how someone would get started?
That's good. Really good. So for that person who realizes that they're in this rut and they're looking to break out of it, they want to break out of that matrix. And again, a lot of people don't even know this insidious matrix exists. If you look at society, right? Like there are food places. There are so many food places that do not need to exist. Like food has become a drug in our society. Like there is way too much food, even healthy food. There's a lot of it. Right? So even if you're going to eat healthy, you still can't overeat. You can't overdo it. You have to eat the right amounts. But I mention that because we have to recognize that our society has developed in such a way that the matrix is all around us all the time. Even us who live the right path. We live that lifestyle of fitness, wellness, and health because we value it. Not just now, but until we go to our grave, we want to be fit and healthy. We have to recognize that society is built in a way that gives people what they want. Most people want to overeat and they want to eat poorly. And so, of course, the companies will not tell people, no, you can't do that. they're going to keep selling this stuff, and the food supply will get bigger and bigger. And that's how the matrix is built around people. The company's responsibility is not to tell people, hey, you shouldn't eat that much and you shouldn't eat this stuff and you shouldn't be drinking. They're going to feed people what they want because the people are willing to pay for it. For the person who wants to break out of that matrix, the first step that they're at is the most important. It's being aware of the matrix that they're surrounded by, because only becoming aware of it is how you're able to break out of it and climb out of it. So first is that awareness. Realize, okay, this is how society is. This is how 85% of people operate. They just do what everybody else does, and they're not willing to take the more challenging path, which is the more rewarding path. So what they need to do is look for things, look for people, look for friends who are in a matrix of positivity in some way, shape, or form. There are a lot of ways people can be living in a matrix of positivity. But truthfully, we know people who are taking care of themselves, people who value their health and wellness, people who eat properly, people who exercise. And this is not just our methods. It could be, there's so many methods out there that are viable, that are good. So I'll say, broadly speaking, it can be anybody who's following a path that proves value of their own health, wellness, and longevity. If they can connect with those kinds of people, that's second step. And sometimes it's hard to find that second step out in the general public. Maybe they don't have friends who are active, who are already on a program. Sometimes it requires looking for local professionals to connect with. And, really, sometimes this can cost no money. There are church groups that do weekly exercise offerings. Could be yoga, could be Pilates, it could be a gentle boot camp type thing. There are women's groups, there are business groups, there are school groups, there are community groups that offer either free or really, really low cost fitness options. Again, it could be anything. So that's one of the next steps, is looking for people or looking for activities that they can go try and join. Especially with the internet today, there are so many sites that offer all kinds of things like this. I think one of the biggest ones is called Meetup. Just on Meetup alone, there are so many different groups in every town offering just get-togethers based around certain activities and lifestyles. I know I can go on right now and find at least a handful of fitness-related or outdoor activity-related free classes or offerings for people around this area alone. So it comes down to recognizing that you're in the matrix, knowing you want to break out of it, and then taking steps to connect with people, friends, or professionals who can offer you that first phase of your new lifestyle, your new activities, the new things you might want to try that become a regular habit of yours. And in doing that, you start making new friendships based on the same values, and everything feeds into each other, and you start planning things together. You start doing things together. You start creating a natural support network that keeps everybody going in the same direction, because it's all based on values now, right? It's not based on, let's get together and do this. Everybody understands that mentally they have a new set of values and they have a new vision for their future. So everybody's supporting each other on those new values and long-term vision for their health, wellness, and longevity. Does that make sense for the first steps?
Makes perfect sense. And can you tell us again the definition of your matrix, a beautiful definition, how you used it?
Thank you. Yes. So maybe it makes a little more sense now. It's a set of conditions that provides a framework in which something develops. So for human beings, it is your surroundings, your physical surroundings, the people that you're surrounded by, friends, family, coworkers. All of that provides a framework that you exist in. And that framework influences how you develop, grow, and evolve. So we naturally do this, right? We've been doing this since we were young, all of us, because it's how we live. It's what we value. We create our matrix and we structure it in a way that is conducive to us living those habits on a consistent basis, because it's what we want. It's what we value. It's how we choose our friends. It's how we choose our mates. It's how we structure our lives, not just for the short term, but for the long term.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Joey, thank you so much for letting me on and interview you about this. This is definitely a topic that I think we can go even further in future podcasts, for future studio sessions. I think we've got a lot of great information for people to get started and kind of continue and just be aware.
Yeah, total pleasure. Thank you. It was a great interview. So this was your first time. You did really well, Nikki. We'll surely be doing this again. And obviously the topic we went on today has many different tangents. And I think when people grasp onto this, it's one of those things that, because it's a hidden element, when we talk about it and we can give it a name and people can start thinking about it that way, it can help them break out of it because they become aware of it. So I think we're going to be revisiting this and putting some more structure to it and some more actionable steps on developing a full-time awareness of it. Because hearing about it once is one thing, but having things to remind you about the constant presence of a matrix is really a way to shift the matrix you exist in, and beyond that, also influence the matrix of others around you, because that's the next phase, the next level of all this, is having that ripple effect to positively impact other people. So you can plan on another episode on this topic for sure. I'll talk to you soon, Nikki.
Awesome.
All right. That's the Fitness Whisperer episode number 4. I'm going to turn that off. And this was a cool experiment. I hope you enjoyed that. Please do share this. We got more coming to you.